Hi everybody! In this video we're going to be making a Wednesday doll. How exciting! She's got really fun flippy legs, everything moves, and she's got the beautiful braids in the back as well. I'm so excited to get started. Here we go! Now for the materials, because black doesn't show up super great on camera, I'm actually going to do a very colorful, we're going to call it Wednesday, but it's going to be more of just like a regular doll. So obviously you're going to be working in a black and white color scheme here. But for me, I've got different colors for the dress, the face, the hair, the detailing with the collar and everything. We're going to also need our crochet hook. So I'm using a 7mm crochet hook with my Bernat. You can use whatever hook you'd like. I've got my scissors, my darning needle, and my stitch markers. I'm using a 12mm safety eye. And then I've also got some like weight 1 cotton yarn for doing the extra detailing around the eyes here. Oh, and our fluff. And our fluff. Let's get started. So first up, we are going to start with the head. So in your skin tone, we are going to start with a magic ring. And we're going to do 6 single crochet. Okay, we'll pull that tight. Round 2, we're going to increase all the way around. Round 3, we're going to do single crochet 1 and increase and repeat that all the way around. Oops, there we go. In round 4, we're going to do single crochet 2 and then increase. What did I do there? Whoops. There we go. Single crochet 2 and then increase. There we go. It's funny, normally with the Bernat blanket yarn, I'd be using an 8mm hook, but I have some of my Bernat is like this nice thick version, and then some of it is a really thin, almost like Chanel version, which doesn't go very well with an 8mm hook. So this is definitely the chunkier of the two, and it feels really bizarre kind of working through it with my 7mm hook. Feels awkward. And the doll, I can tell, is already going to be smaller than the last one I just made, which was definitely with an 8mm. But that is okay. You can use any yarn with this and just change your hook accordingly, and it'll be fine. Because using the same hook and yarn size through the whole project. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and secure my end here, and I do that just by weaving it all the way back around the magic ring again. Get in there. Okay. Now it will never come undone. Perfect. Now I can flip the right side out. we are going to single crochet around for rounds 5, 6, and 7. So 3 rounds of 24 stitches. Okay, so that should be 7 rounds. If you ever lose track, you can count back from the magic ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. So let's move on to round 8. We're going to start decreasing. So we'll start with 2 single crochet and then a decrease. I show this in every single one of my videos. I'm going to do it here too. I'm going to show you guys how I do my decrease. So I insert into the first loop, or first stitch, I guess, yarn over and pull through. Then I yarn over and pull through 1. Into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all of them. So what we did is we basically made a fake stitch underneath our decrease here. And when we come back around, I know it looks gappy right now, that's fine. When we come back around, I'll show you how we work into that decrease where it makes it completely invisible. So let's repeat all the way around, single crochet 2, and then decrease. Decreases are one of those techniques where everybody has a different take on it. And in all those how-to tutorials and stuff, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do one the way that I do it. I doubt that I invented it. I'm sure it's definitely a technique, but I'd be curious to know if anybody else does decreases like this. For me, it's been the most reliable way of doing the stitch where like it doesn't make a gap. Yeah, basically it doesn't make a gap, which was like one of my big pet peeves. Okay, so that is round 8. Let's go to round 9. Do single crochet 1 and then decrease. So this is where we're going to work into that decrease from the previous round. So let's begin the decrease. And then into the second stitch, so we're not going to go under the top 2 loops. When you do that, you're kind of ending up with this big gappy area there, which we don't want. So instead of inserting there, we're going to insert under the fake stitch that we made. Your hook goes really easily into it, so it's easy to find. And when you go in there, see that? Your decrease stitch has completely disappeared. It just looks like another single crochet in there. And there's no gaps. So that's my tip and trick for the day. I'm sorry if you watched all my tutorial videos, you get that tip and trick every single time that you watch one of my videos. Okay, and we just finished round 9. So let's add our eyes now before we keep going. So I've got this funny little like egg shape going on here with my head. That's fine, it gets covered with the hair. It's only because I'm using the 7mm with the thicker Bernat. So we're gonna put the eyes between round 6 and 7. So I like to keep my like starting and ending of the round at the back, and then we're gonna come over here to the front. We're gonna find round 6 and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we'll just stick it in there somewhere. Okay. And then we are gonna come over here. So we're gonna have 5 stitches in between. Okay. Looks good. Let's go ahead and secure those. If you're embroidering your eyes, you can always do that after you finished sealing up the head as well. Okay, so that's what we look like. Let's go ahead and finish round 10. Oops. And round 10 is just decrease all the way around. You can also begin stuffing right now. I like to stuff at the very end when there's only 6 stitches left, but if you don't prefer that, you can start stuffing now. Okay, you'll fasten off. Give it a decent little tail. We're not using it to attach anything, but I just like to give myself lots of leeway. Okay, and we are going to stuff the head. Okay, so I'm just getting to the end here. When I'm stuffing the head, I do want it to be squishy, but I also want it to be able to hold its shape well. So basically just kind of feeling around to seeing if there's any kind of empty pockets where your thumb, your fingers go right into it. It feels pretty good. At the bottom, could probably just use a little bit more. Yeah, right into the center there. Okay, good. Let's close it up. So grab your needle, stick your yarn end onto it. Now we're going to be kind of zigzagging through the final last 6 stitches. So I like to go through these 2 bars of my decrease. If your decrease looks different, you only have 1, you can just go through the 1 as well. But I'm gonna go through 2. So I go from the top down, and then from the bottom up, and from the top down, and the bottom up. So just zigzagging back and forth. Okay. And then when we pull it tight, we got a really nice close. And then to just secure it there, I'm going to go around the circle again. And I'm actually not going to do a full tie off on this because I'm actually going to use this yarn end to tie to where we attach the yarn for doing the neck. So just for the sake of the video, I'm going to just tuck it off to the side for now. Normally I would just leave it where it is. Okay, and we'll bring it back in later. But for now, we have a head. Now for the body, we're going to be working it directly into the head. You guys making Wednesday are going to be starting with black yarn. You're going to be doing the whole body with black. Because black doesn't show up well on camera, I'm using a sparkly purple. So let's go ahead. What we're going to be doing is working 6 stitches into round 10 of the head. So I like to start somewhere near the back. It doesn't really matter where you end up because no matter what, we're going to correct it at the very bottom. So if you even started at the front, you totally could. It's just, it doesn't look quite as pretty exactly right where you add your yarn, so I would suggest starting somewhere in the back. So I'm going to come under here, pull it through. I'm going to chain 1 to secure, and then starting in the same stitch, let's work around. So we've got 1 there, 2, come on, there we go, 5, and 6. Done. So that's what we look like. That's where we're going to start the neck. Right here is where I was talking about I was going to tie off the yarn tail from the head together. So I'm going to just bring this strand back and do that now. You don't have to tie them off together, but it's kind of my lazy way of just finishing everything without having to weave it all the way through 100 times. So I like to just tie off all my yarn tails together. There we go, we're secure. Normally I would leave these yarn tails nice and long inside the body because they're not ever going to be noticed, but I'm going to cut mine short for the video just so that you aren't only seeing yarn tails hanging out there. So that's it. Let's start working on round 2. So round 2 starts with an increase. We're going to increase all the way around. Okay, now round 3, we're going to single crochet 1 and then increase. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. Now for the next 3 rounds, so rounds 4, 5, and 6, we are going to single crochet around. Okay, so I just got to the end of round 6. If you lose track of your rounds on the body, you can count back from where you attached at the neck. So this is your round 1. Okay, it's kind of like half showing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's go to round 7. So we're going to increase a little bit here. We're going to do single crochet 5 and then increase. Okay, round 8. We're going to just single crochet around. In round 9, we're going to start decreasing. So we're going to single crochet 5 and then decrease and repeat that around. In round 10, we are going to do single crochet 1 and decrease all the way around. Now, before I finish off that round, I also know that I want to be in the next round seaming this all the way shut. So I am going to, well, no, it's okay. I'll finish it and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's finish that round. Okay, so we have 12 stitches here. Right, we finished off. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to stuff our body and we're also going to seam it shut all at the same time. So let's kind of look at this for a second. Now, everybody's going to kind of end up in the same or a different spot because depending on where you started off at the back of the head, right? Maybe you started a little bit more to the right or the left or whatever. Everybody's going to end up a little bit differently, but where we all want to be at the end of this round is on this side here. So I can see that I have traveled over a little bit too much. So I'm going to start removing stitches so that when I start seaming this in half, it's going to be straight and flat to the eyes. Does that make sense? So I think that I am in a good spot. Am I in a good spot? Nope, I think I need to get rid of one more. Okay, now because I also got rid of a decrease, right now I actually have 13 stitches. So I don't have 12 anymore. So when I fold it in half and seam 6 stitches across, it's gonna be a little bit wonky. So all I'm going to do is I'm gonna kind of decrease one of these kind of funky in the middle on the one side, and it'll end up being fine. Basically at the end of this, you just wanna have 6 stitches across, however you wanna do it. So let's go ahead and do it together. Depending on how yours lined up, you may not have even gotten rid of a decrease, which would be really convenient, and you could just stitch 6 across and it would work out really nicely. So I'm going to do some of the stuffing now and then I'll finish it up as I seam. So to seam across, all you're going to do is insert into 1 stitch in the back and 1 in the front. And it is a little bit awkward, especially on the first one. There we go. Okay, so there's 1. 2. See, is it still lining up flat? Perfect. Okay. We can get rid of the stitch marker, we don't need it. And I am just going to bring 2 of these stitches together. There we go. 3, we're still flat. Let's get the rest of that stuffing in. Lining this part up is probably the most thinking you'll have to do through the whole pattern. So once this is done, you don't have to think so hard. Okay, I'm happy with that. It's firm, but it's basically as squishy as the head is. Okay, so I have 3 stitches so far. Let's finish this up. 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's it. So that's what we look like. We can go ahead and fasten off. You don't really need a long tail because you're not using this to sew anything onto. But like I said, I like to give myself a good amount. Okay, so since we don't really need this tail for anything, I am just going to weave it in. And then we can clean that up right now. So to weave in the tail, I like to go under a row of stitches. Okay, and then I'm going to insert my needle come back up in the next row of stitches, one over, but around like the same spot. So we're gonna kind of make a Z inside the work and then go under this row as well. Go. Then once that's done, it's very secure. So we are just going to poke our needle through, come up somewhere in the body, and then we can trim it. So that's where we're at. So now we have a head and the body. We are going to work on the legs next. Okay, so for the legs, we are going to start off with the shoes. So I'm going to bring this over here. So you're going to be starting with the black, and we're going to alternate between the white and the black all the way up. So for me, I'm going to be pretending my purple is my black, and I'm also going to be using a white as well. So white is for white, purple is for black. So let's get started. Let's start with our magic ring. And we are going to put 6 single crochet into the magic ring. In round 2, we are going to single crochet 1, and increase, and repeat that around. Okay, and I'm just going to secure my tail here before we go any further. Just the same way we did for the head. Okay, and then I can turn my work around. Now we're going to single crochet 8, and then 1 increase at the end. Okay, we're almost at the top of the shoe now, so let's decrease 5 times. And then round 5 is we're just going to single crochet all the way around. Okay, so now for the foot, I'm not stuffing them. I think it would be really firm. It's already squishy, kind of feeling like the rest of the body anyways, just with the yarn. You can trim off your tail or you can shove it inside. I'm just gonna push it in here. Okay, now let's move on to, oh, we're doing our color change now. So let's actually back out of the stitch a little bit. So just to here. So we have our 2 loops left on our hook. Normally you would yarn over and pull through, right? But actually we're going to do our color change. So let's bring in our white. And we're going to use our white to complete our stitch here. Just like that. Now I'm going to just tie off the 2 strands together so that white's not going anywhere. And you don't have to fasten off with your black or purple yarn. We're going to carry it all the way through all the color changes until we finally fasten off with the white at the end. So just forget about the black strand that you have there, or the purple strand. I'm just going to say purple from now on so it's not confusing. So let's start with our first stitch. So for this color change, we are going to slip stitch into the back loop only of the next stitch. Okay, so slip stitch. Now that doesn't count as a stitch, it's just kind of there to pull everything together. We are going to go under both loops now of the stitch and do a regular single crochet. Okay, so the single crochet is our actually first stitch. The slip stitch is there for decoration, and you'll see why when we work all the way around. So now we are going to single crochet around. And when we get to that last stitch, the 5th stitch, we are going to change back to purple. So drop our working yarn in the white and come back to purple, and then complete that stitch. I'm just going to get rid of this little tail as well. We're going to shove that into the foot so that it's not confusing on camera. There we go. So now I only have 2 strands. Okay, so we're going to do the same kind of thing. So with this purple, we are going to slip stitch into the back loop of the first single crochet. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Now we're going to go under both loops. Where is it here? Okay, a little awkward. And do our first single crochet. And the slip stitch doesn't count, so our marker goes into the first single crochet. And we're going to go all the way around. Okay, we got to our last stitches, and we're going to be going into a color change again. So back to white, pull it through, and same technique we've been working. So we're going to go into the first single crochet, back loop only, slip stitch. Oh, sorry. And single crochet. Lost track of what I was doing there for a second. And the single crochet is what gets our stitch marker. And we single crochet all the way around. And we'll do our final color change. We're going to go back to purple. And now we don't need white anymore. So we are going to fasten off the white. And we're just going to tie it off to the working yarn. Okay. And I am just going to get me a little bit smaller and just kind of shove it in so it's out of the way. There we go. Okay, so now we're back to just straight purple. We're going to do our last little slip stitch trick here. Slip stitch into the back loop only, and then single crochet under both. And you can see here with the color change, yeah, it's a little slanty, But now our colors actually complete full rings all the way around the leg, as opposed to looking like they're stacked on top of each other going up. So that's what that little slip stitch and single crochet does. It's kind of a neat trick. Okay, so we single crocheted all the way around. We are going to do 2 more rounds of just single crochet around. Remember, skip that slip stitch now. Okay, and then that will take us to the end of round 11. Okay, so just finished round 11. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold it in half and single crochet 2 across. So when I do that, I'm going to insert into the next stitch, and then not the stitch that's already like working on my hook. I'm gonna go into the next one, like that. And then in the final 2 stitches. Okay, so it looks nice and flat. We're gonna go ahead, give yourself a bit of a tail because we are gonna be using this to sew onto the body. Okay, so I give myself maybe just a little over 12 inches, and we will secure that just like that. So that is the back of the leg. This will be the front where the color changes are not happening. The color changes are gonna be at the back of the leg. So we're gonna go ahead and make another one of those. Okay, so now we have 2 legs. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set these aside for now. We're going to finish making all of the other pieces all together, and then we'll do one big assembly run all at the very end. Now let's start the arms. The arms are gonna start in our skin color, and we're gonna go ahead and single crochet 5 into the magic ring. And then in round 2, we're going to single crochet 1. And then we're going to do an increase. Where's my first stitch? There it is. Okay, so 1 increase. We'll repeat that one more time. And then single crochet 1 into that last stitch. Okay, I'm just going to secure my tail here. Come on, you. There we go. All right, and then I can flip my work right side out. Okay, and then in round 3, we're going to single crochet all the way around. My ring is moving on me. That felt really weird. That's better. Okay, round 4, we're going to do single crochet 1 and then decrease. And repeat that again, 1 and decrease. And then 1 single crochet. In this last stitch, we're going to be changing our color. So let's just snip that off right here. And now we're going to be moving into the black color again for the rest of the dress. Of course, I'm using purple. Let's go ahead here and attach, and then just fasten our ends. The hands and the arms will also not be stuffed, just like the legs. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim off some of this tail because not all of that's going to fit inside the hands. And then I'm just going to kind of shove everything in, so it's not in the way. Here we go. Okay, we're going to use the same technique we did with the legs here for the color change. So in the next stitch, we're going to single crochet into the back loop only. If I can find it, there it is. Sorry, did I say single crochet? I meant slip stitch. Slip stitch in there, and then single crochet into the same stitch. And that's where our stitch marker goes, so the slip stitch doesn't count. And then we're just going to stitch all the way around. Okay. And then rounds 6 to 9, we're just going to single crochet around. Okay, so that's the end of round 9. We are going to fold in half and single crochet 2 across. So same way we did with our legs. So I'm going to insert into the next stitch and the one right across from it. So skipping the stitch that my hook is currently in and going to the one beside it. And then into the last 2 stitches. Okay, and we'll go ahead and fasten that off with a bit of a tail for sewing. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make the second arm. Okay, so gone ahead and finished both arms now. I'm also gonna set those aside for assembly at the very end. That is actually the last time that we're going to need the skin tone. So if you made everything in order, you've done the head, the body, and now we've done the arms, you can actually set that aside now. We don't need it anymore. All right, so now we're gonna work on the hair. So I'm using yellow, but you guys are gonna be using black for Wednesday. Okay, so let's start with a magic ring. And we are going to do 8 single crochet into the magic ring. In round 2, we're going to single crochet 1, and then increase. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. For the tension on the hair cap, I would suggest using the exact same tension that you used on the head, or just a little bit looser. Because the stitch count is going to be the same between the two, and the cap will stretch enough to go over the head and it'll look nice, but I wouldn't do it any tighter than the head because then it'll end up being too small. Okay, so for round 3, we are going to single crochet 1 and increase all the way around again. Now we're going to single crochet 2 and increase. And now rounds 5 to 8 is just going to be single crochet around. Okay, so we just finished round 8. I'm gonna go ahead and just secure my tail here now. And then I'm gonna show you what it looks like on the head, so you can just make sure that we're kind of all at the same point here. So we still have one more round to do on the cap. This is basically what it looks like, a little acorn hat at the moment. So it comes down to almost the base of the neck, up between the eyes. When it's all done, the hair is gonna go all the way down to the bottom down here kind of thing, and then you'll see it gets kind of hooded over the eyes if they were like put down. Okay, so let's start round 9 now. And we're going to begin that with a single crochet, and then we're going to start working the hair. So single crochet 1, and then the hair strand is a chain 9. Keep your chain very loose. We don't want this to be a tight strand of hair basically, because we do need to braid it after. So it needs to be pliable enough that we can do that without it getting really stiff, you know? So, okay, so there's chain 9. Starting in the second chain from the hook, we're just gonna slip stitch, and we're gonna slip stitch all the way back. So 8 slip stitches total. And again, you can see I've got like no tension on my hook, keeping the stitches very airy so that it doesn't get stiff. Okay, see, very pliable. Then we're gonna go ahead and single crochet 1 to begin the next hair strand, and then we're gonna chain 9. I can see I did not change 9 to begin with. Okay, cool. Let's go back to the start of round 9, please. So we're gonna go ahead and begin round 9. So let's do that with a chain 1. Each hair strand is a single crochet 1 is a single crochet 1 plus a chain. So we're gonna do a chain of 9. Okay, and just keeping in mind that your chain should be very loose. When we're working through it, we do need to braid this at the very end, so it can't be really, really stiff. And we are going to go into the second chain from the hook and do a slip stitch. And then we're going to slip stitch just all the way back into every chain. So a total of 8 slip stitches. Again, keeping these very loose. You can tell I have just about 0 tension on my hook right now. Okay, and then once we do that last slip stitch, that is 1 hair strand completed. So let's start the next one. It begins with the single crochet 1. And then we're going to do that same chain again. So chain 9 and slip stitch 8. Okay, and then we're going to do 1 more hair strand. So the same thing, so the single crochet 1 and then the chain. Okay, so we finished the 3 hair strands. Let's go ahead and work the front of the face now. So we're going to begin with a double crochet. Then into the next stitch, both a double crochet and a half double crochet. Then 1 half double crochet, 1 half double crochet increase, 2 single crochet, and a slip stitch. Okay, so that's how we're looking so far. Looks good. Now we're basically going to do like the mirror opposite on the other side. So let's start with 2 single crochet, a half double crochet increase, half double crochet one, into the same stitch, a half double crochet and a double crochet, and then one double crochet. Perfect. Now we're back to working the hair strands. So now we're just working the opposite. So now the hair strand is a chain 9, slip stitch 8, and then a single crochet, okay? I can see that I'm actually starting to play yarn chicken with my gold color. I think I'm gonna make it to the end. Just these hair strands take a little bit more yarn. It takes up more yarn than you would think it does. So I'm sitting with this much yarn lead left to work the rest of the hair cap and also for sewing onto the head. So I think I have enough, but it wouldn't be the first time I've lost at yarn chicken either. So you'll see how it happens. Okay, so I've done the slip stitch 8 and then the single crochet at the end. Okay, and repeat that 2 more times. Okay, and then the last 5 stitches are single crochet. Okay, we're gonna slip stitch into the next stitch so we can fasten off. Wow, I was actually worried about absolutely nothing with the yarn. Anybody else really bad at judging how much yarn you have? I ended up with this. But for some reason I was worried. Wow, I'm such a bad judge at it. So fasten off with a really long tail. This is how much I have here. That looks maybe about 30 inches. It's probably way more than what I need. Again, I'm a bad judge. But what you're gonna be using that long yarn tail for is you're going to be, your yarn tail is about here. You're going to be using a back stitch and stitching all the way across the whole head, all the way around to secure like the cap to the head. So you're gonna want a long tail. If you end up with it not being long enough, you can always just add an extra piece of yarn. So don't stress. Don't stress like I was just stressing. So that's what we look like. I'll show you what we look like with it on the head. Got a funny stitch there. Takes a little bit of wiggling, but that's what it is. And then of course these get braided in the back, but super cute. Now we are going to move on to the dress. Alrighty, so with our body here with us, we are going to be actually working directly into the body and then crocheting out. So you can see here, right? So this dress is not attached. Okay, we're gonna be single crocheting right into those stitches. So to get started, we are going to flip it backwards. We want to look at the back, and we also want the head towards us. Okay, we are going to attach our yarn to round 7. So this is round number 1, right where the, I guess the black yarn meets the head. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to be inserting my hook just like this, okay, from the top down. Now, as we're working around round 7, you can see there's some single crochets, and then you can see there's some increases. So just keep in mind that as you're going all the way around, it's not obvious that there's going to be 21 stitches as you go. If you can catch the increases as you stitch around, that's fantastic. If not, then just kind of add stitches where it makes sense so that by the time that you get all the way around, you have 21 stitches. Okay, so let's do it together. So we're going to chain 1 to secure and get back into that same stitch for a single crochet. Okay, so there's 1. So it's very obvious where you're supposed to be inserting your hook. there's just kind of like the little holes between stitches, your hook's like automatically going to want to come out where the other side of that stitch is. So sorry, 3, okay, 4, this one's an increase. So for the increases, I'm inserting my hook in the same spot at the spot closest to me, but then I'm coming out between 2 different stitches on the bottom. Hope that makes sense. I'll show you again at the next increase. 6. Okay, so here we are at another increase again. So I'm going to increase 2 times here, but then I'm going to come out on the other side here and here, okay? That's 19, 20, and then because they work in the round, they don't line up 100%, it's totally fine. I'm gonna bring my last stitch up kind of in line with my first one. So there's 21 stitches. Okay, so that's what it looks like. It looks pretty goofy. It's gonna wanna flip up in the beginning. That's totally fine. Okay, so let's move on to the next round. So we're gonna increase a little bit. So starting in the first stitch, okay, we're going to single crochet 6 and then increase. And then we're going to repeat that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip this skirt down. It should stay now. There we go. One thing I should have mentioned just as we were starting adding the yarn in the back is that it doesn't really matter where you started. So if you were just kind of panicking there in the last couple of minutes that you're not sure if we started in the same spot, like started inserting into the same stitch, it's totally fine. I just like to start at the back because there is a little bit of a jog, right, between height and the stitches. So I like to keep that at the back of the body. But if you wanted to start at the side, even if you, I don't know why you would want to, but you could start at the front too. But it doesn't, we don't need to orient it anything more than that. It's really just to keep the ugliest part at the back. Okay, now we're gonna single crochet around. Okay, we're gonna increase a little bit again. So now we're going to single crochet 11 and then increase. then we're gonna repeat that a second time. I don't know if I already said that or not. Now we're going to do 2 rounds, so rounds 5 and 6 of both single crochet around. Okay, so starting in round 7, we're gonna do something to kind of equalize the layers here, so at the very end it's not obvious where we were fastening off. So we're gonna do that same trick we did for the color change. We're going to slip stitch into the back loop only, and then single crochet into the seam stitch. And then we are going to single crochet 22. And then in the last 3 stitches, we're just gonna do 3 different slip stitches. Keep your tension loose on the slip stitches so that we're not folding it in on itself. And then that's it. So we've evened out our fabric pretty good there. We are going to fasten off. I'm gonna give myself a decent tail because what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just kind of weave it all the way through the skirt back to the body so I can join it with, where is it? I can tie it off with this yarn that I used to attach the skirt in the first place. Bring it back here. I'm going to do an invisible finish on it. I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll just pull, instead of doing like the chain 1 to secure, we're gonna pull the yarn tail all the way through. And then, here we go. Depending on how tight your stitches are, I normally skip 1 stitch. So the one right beside our slip stitch, skip it, go to the next one. You could do it into one right beside. It just looks a little different. So but I go through both loops there. And then I'm gonna come back and just pick up the back loop only on that slip stitch and just kind of go through the rest of that stitch as well. There we go. So that fastens it off just like this. And I mean, if you're looking hard, you can tell that those are slip stitches there, but for the most part, it's pretty even. I think that looks good. Now I'm just going to weave this tail basically through the skirt. I don't think I came out the other side, nope. You don't have to bring it all the way back to the body if you don't want to. I'm sure you could just kind of weave it back and forth through the skirt, but for me, just because it's a floating piece and it's gonna get handled a lot and probably flipped around, if a little kid is gonna be playing with this, they're definitely gonna be playing with the skirt. So I don't want like a tail just kind of floating around in here. I'd like to have everything secured in the body. For me, I think I mentioned a little bit, I don't know if I did mention it. I'm making this for my daughter, who's 3 years old. And sparkly purple was definitely her personality. And I know she's gonna be flipping it around and really playing with it and stuff. So I want this to be able to withstand my 3-year-old. Although she would prefer, 3.5-year-old, I should say. She is adamant that she is a big girl. So we'll give her the extra half. So, okay. So I'm gonna come in here and pull both yarn tails out of the same hole. Are we in the same hole? Not actually, not really, not yet. We're gonna say we are. I think we are actually. And I'm just gonna tie both of these off. Okay, and then I'm just going to sink the tails into the body. Perfect. You'll know you're not coming out of the same hole when you're tying them together if your knot doesn't sink into the stitch right away. If it's getting caught, it's probably because your knot was actually outside of the stitch hole. Okay, good. It's invisible, it's gone. I'm gonna go ahead and just trim off these tails. We don't need them. Okay, we're looking great. Let's do the collar next, and then we can go ahead and sew on all of our limbs. Now for the collar, we're going to start separately and then we're going to add it to the head as we go. So we are going to do a chain 9, leave a little bit of a tail at the beginning so that we can kind of sew it in later and hide it. So your chain 9 doesn't have to particularly be very loose. Okay. Now we're going to bring our head over. We're going to have the head facing you. And then we are going to basically take our piece and bring it under the head to the front. Okay, so our yarn tail is on the left and our working side is on the right. Now make sure that your chain was not folded or twisted on itself. And we are going to work a single crochet into the first chain. This is awkward, just so you guys know. But once the first stitch is done, then it stops being so awkward. So there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna mark it here. Even though I can't remember, I don't think we need the marker. We don't, it's okay. So we are going to work into the next stitch. We're going to do a half double crochet. Okay, and a double crochet into the same stitch. Then we're going to go ahead and chain 3. And we're going to come back down and we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Oh, I almost lost my whole little chain there. There we go. And now we are going to work into the next stitch. So we're going to chain 3 and do the mirror opposite. We're going to double crochet into the next. Okay, and we're also going to half double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, into the next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. And then just to fasten everything off, we'll slip stitch into the next. And then you can go ahead and fasten off. Give yourself a bit of a tail, but it's a very easy sew in, so you don't need the super long tail. Okay, so that is what our collar looks like. It's cute. Now we only have a little bit extra to do with it. We're going to take these yarn tails and basically just kind of tack everything down into place. So I'm going to kind of just bring this through the white into the body, and I'm going to come up in the collar. I guess tacking the collar down is optional. You don't have to. But for me, I don't want it kind of floating up around her neck like that. I do want it to be, you know, sitting down against her dress. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of gently go up and through the stitches to kind of keep it in place. See, that's not going anywhere. You don't need to go through it 100 times. Literally just one stitch will be enough. Okay, and I'm just gonna come up somewhere in the back here. Okay, I'm happy with that. The other yarn tail, I'm going to bring it into the body as well. And come out in the same body stitch. If I can find it, it's a little awkward. Where did you come from? Oh, you're in here. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna tie them off and then hide them in the body. And that's it. If you wanted to, you could go back and forth through the back of the collar too. But you know, it's not going anywhere now. Okay. My whole workstation is sliding on me. Okay. Perfect. And we'll trim those tails. This one was hiding under the skirt. Okay, that is the collar. Let's go ahead and we will attach the legs now. So let's bring them over here. We're going to flip our skirt up. And we're just going to take a look at the legs for a second. So I'm going to bring the black ones over because it's easier to see. So keep in mind that we had basically like the nice front side of the leg, and then we had where the color change happened, right? So we want to keep the color change at the back of the leg for both of them, okay? So for me, that looks like this. This is the front of my legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew them on here. So I have 2 stitches at the top of the leg, and I'm going to sew them into 2 stitches on either side of the body. So we'll start with this one. So I'm gonna go through the edgemost stitch there. And I'm gonna go through that stitch 2 times. Okay, there's the first stitch. And then the second stitch. We'll go through there twice. Perfect. And that's it. There is kind of like a little bit of an overhang right here. I'm actually gonna go ahead and just pick that up too. You don't have to, it's optional. There isn't really a stitch there, it's just kind of like that rounded part. Basically where we had the that 5th stitch. Okay, cool, I'm happy with that now. So let's bring that back up into the body. And we're going to use this yarn tail to tie off with the other leg in a minute. So we'll leave that just like that. Okay, let's bring our other leg in. Okay, so again, making sure this is the front of the leg. So that means I'm going to be starting in the innermost stitch this time and then working my way out. Okay, and then for whatever reason, I don't really have the same roundedness on the other leg as I did. So I'm just gonna leave it just like that. I'm gonna come through the body into the same stitch as my other leg. And I'm gonna tie them off together. If you wanted to go ahead and weave your yarn through the body in like the traditional sense, you could do that as well to fasten off. For me, I'm a little bit lazy. And I like when everything just ties off nicely together. Here we go. And then we're just gonna go ahead and hide those yarn tails in the body. This is one of my favorite ways to do legs because they do this. They're super flippy, I love it. Okay, legs are done. We can fold our skirt down one last final time. Looks great. Now let's move ahead to, oh, were you even on camera? I don't know. There we go. Legs are in place, they look great. Now let's go ahead and we're gonna sew the arms on too. I guess I should double check my alignment as I do this. Now for the arms, same kind of thing as the legs. So when you look at them, there's one side of the arm that just looks better because obviously one side had the color change. For me, this side looks the best. Okay, so I'm gonna be sewing both arms on with this facing up. So that means that my arm's gonna be attached just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this onto round 2 of the body. So round 2 of the body is actually almost hidden underneath this collar here, okay? So you want it to be on the side of the body, so you can see my eyes are here, okay? I'm gonna be sewing onto these 2. Okay, and then the same way that I did the leg, I'm going to be going through each stitch 2 times. The first time I made this, I think that I probably actually did the collar after the arm, which probably actually makes sense. So I'm sorry if this part is a little bit more difficult, if I made this more challenging for you. There we go. Okay, so there's one arm. We are going to bring that to the center of the back so we can tie off with the other arm. I think I'm gonna leave a note actually as I edit and everything that you can also do the arms first before the collar. Okay, so same thing on the other side. We're gonna find those stitches again. And we are going to be, I wonder where I want that to be. Yeah. Right here. Good. And then we'll tie these 2 off. Actually, also kind of funny when I said that I'm going to be editing this video and adding that text in there. It's actually my husband that does all the editing. So my husband will probably be adding a little note in there for me that says that you can sew your arms on before the collar. I should give him that little shout out, otherwise he's gonna hear that part and say, excuse me, who does the editing for your video? He's gonna laugh when he hears this. Okay. Okay, and that's what we have so far. We are almost done. Let's grab our hair piece and we will put that on as well. Okay, so let's get our hair cap on. We are almost done. Are you guys super excited? I'm really excited. So when you're fitting the hair cap on, obviously you want the slip stitch to be centered between the eyes, and you also want it to go basically all the way down to the base of the neck. Okay, when we're sewing, we're gonna be sewing one stitch in from the bottom, so this is just gonna overhang, so that's okay. But you want it to cover the entire head. So I'm happy with how that sits. I am going to use just one needle to just kind of keep that in place while we stitch it in. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, before I get too carried away, I'm not gonna make the same mistake I did with the collar. Let's actually go ahead and do the extra embroidery on the face first, and then go ahead and stitch the cap on. Let's do that. So this is totally optional. And embroidery is not my forte, but I do like adding just a little tiny, basically eyelid over the eye. I think I can handle that, just on each side. I've also seen people do like the white underneath the eye as well, and like that always looks nice. Even for Wednesday patterns, I've seen people do like the white under eye plus another like black, where it looks almost like a black eyeliner, which looks really pretty. I am not that adventurous, so I'm just going to do a eyelid basically. So I'm gonna come up just at like the top of the eye here. And I'm just gonna bring it down to that stitch right beside the eye. And I'm just gonna bring it up through here and just make sure it looks good. Awesome, super simple, looks good. Okay, other side. So we're gonna come up, basically just the top of the eye. Oops. And then have it come down to the stitch right beside the eye. Okay, all of a sudden we have mascara on. It looks good. So we're just gonna tie that off. Okay, and we'll sink this into the head. Okay, good. And then also, should we do the nose now as well? Let's do that. I think I said we can get rid of the skin color. I may have lied. So we need just a little extra for the nose. Let's grab some here. When I say a little extra, I just mean a couple of inches. Now for doing the nose, all you're going to do is take your yarn just like you were making a knot, but then add a couple extra loops. So I looped it down one more time. Oops. And then 2 more times. So I've actually looped it through 3 times there. I'm good with that size. If you want a bigger nose, like a longer nose, you can go through more than 3 times. But for me, I like this, and I'll show you what it looks like. That's cute, right? Okay, so then let's sew that onto the face as well. Our eyes went between round 6 and 7, so our nose is going to go between 7 and 8. And it basically is just going to get sewn onto between, you know, like the 2 center stitches that happen to be down here. Okay, there's one side, 2 sides. It's looking mighty cute. We'll care of that. Out of all the facial features, for some reason, the nose, it's always something that I seem to forget. It just looks so cute even without the nose. Maybe that's why. Okay, there's one side and the other side. Okay, my stitch went a little wonky there. There we go. Cut off that excess. Great. Yay. Now we can get back to what I originally said and we'll actually do the hair cap. So we are back. You also want to make sure that obviously your hair is lining up. My slip stitch still lines up with the center between the eyes, and I'm happy how it sits. So let's go ahead. If you also need to tack it down in a couple other spots, you know, you can tack down around the head as well. Okay, and let's bring this yarn up to this stitch here. So basically we're going to be sewing through round 8 of the hair cap. So round 9, remember, was those stitches that goes into the hair, right? Round 8 was the run right, you know, before it. So we're gonna sew using a back stitch. So in order to do that, so we're gonna go through both the hair cap and the head underneath, and you're gonna jump ahead into the second stitch. So skip that stitch hole, go into the next one. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then we're going to be doing is we're going to be going back 1 stitch and forward 2. Okay, so you're basically doing backwards loops all the way through the piece, and it ends up with a really nice, secure stitch. Plus, you don't have to pull it insanely. What happened here? Oh, we got a little knot here. You don't have to pull it insanely tight for it to be really secure. Goodness, what did happen here? Okay, I'm not really sure what that was. So you're pulling just tough, like hard enough to secure it, but you don't want it to be making like big indents all the way around, okay? So I'm gonna show you one more and then we'll speed it up. So I'm gonna go back 1 stitch into the head, pull up into 2 stitches ahead. And that's what it looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed up the video. As I'm going back and forth, you're probably gonna see me, I just keep double checking that my alignment is still in place, because I'm always really paranoid about sewing. I just want it to be done the first time, and I want it to be done right the first time. So I keep checking, but anyways, I'll meet you back here when we are all done sewing. Okay, so I have made it all the way around. She's looking really cute. And now I just have this last yarn tail. This one, I actually don't have anything to tie it off with. So this one I am going to be running it through the stitches. And so basically I just run it through a length of stitches. I'm gonna go under the cap, back to basically where I started and then run through these line of stitches as well. So I've just made like a Z pattern underneath. And then I'm actually going to do that one more time. This yarn tail is holding a lot in place, like the entire hair cap. So I want to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Okay, wonderful. Now in that sense, nobody can pull on anything and have this come undone. There's no way that's going to come out 3 times. So let's go ahead, we'll sink the yarn tail. Just like that. And we'll cut it off. I was gonna say we're done. We're not done. We have one more thing to do. We need to braid the hair. So let's do that. So let's grab our hair color. So you guys are gonna be using black. Cut a piece of yarn off. You don't need much. I grabbed maybe a ruler amount, 15 inches. And we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna braid the hair. I'm gonna start with the back piece over the center first to try to keep it as tight to the back as possible. I want the braids to be hanging out over the shoulder like that, okay? And with our yarn tail, or sorry, the extra piece of yarn we just cut, I'm gonna go ahead and just thread it through. There we go, the hair strands like that. Okay, so it can't come undone. It's not possible. I actually see that I kind of did mine a little bit low. It doesn't really matter. I might come up just a little bit more so it looks like there's a little more hair hanging out the bottom. So I'm going to move that up just a tad. So that one, and that one. I'm happier with that. Get rid of this needle for now. And I'm basically just going to tie it. So I'm going to tie it here, come all the way around to the back and tie it on the back as well. Doesn't even really have to be that tight because it's not going anywhere. You can't slide it off. Now it's up to you what you do with your yarn tails. If they're long enough, I guess you could weave them all the way back up into the hair cap and hide them in the head. I'm actually just going to weave them a little bit into the hair here. And then just fasten them off. So we're going to come through here. Okay, something like that. So that's my first one. There's really nowhere in the hair strand that's going to be tugged on or stretched or anything like that. Like this is all that's gonna happen. So I'm not really worried about the yarn tails coming apart in here. And I guess if they did, it would be an easy fix to do it up again. Okay. So that's the one side. So you can see that the braid is gonna hang out at the back over the shoulder, which is exactly what we want. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. We did it! Yay! Look how cute she is. I am super happy with how she turned out. I hope you're happy with how yours turns out too. We'll put them side by side. Gorgeous! Let me set them up in my little like photo area and we'll see the whole thing. And this is what we ended up with. Look at them. I think they're so beautiful. It's funny that they're both made with the exact same pattern and they look very different. I even gave her her own little pet spider. How appropriate. Anyways, I love how they turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed making her as well. And thank you so much for following along. Bye for now.